everyone, this is Syntax, and welcome to the official full gameplay slash walkthrough of my newest map, Mannequin Warehouse 2 Home Invasion, the sequel to Mannequin Warehouse and what is now probably my best map. If you want to skip to where I actually start talking about the knights and how to beat them and how to defend the mannequins and whatnot, you can go ahead to this timestamp right here, but I've actually got some important stuff to talk about beforehand, so if you want to stick around then feel free, but otherwise you can just go to this timestamp. Right away, I want to apologize for the rendering issue. I know it sucks, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can just go watch any of my previous videos. I talk about it there, but the rendering problem with this map is still a problem. It remains a problem, and I am genuinely sorry for it. There are some times I play the map that the rendering isn't really an issue, like certain rooms that de-render all the time just don't de-render for that one time I'm playing it, but I'd say the worse your console is, the bigger the problem's going to be for now. So again, I am sorry for that. There also seems to be an issue with loading saved progress when there's more than one person inside the map. So if you're going to spectate your friend playing or they're going to spectate you, just make sure whoever's intended to be playing goes in a good deal before your friend comes and spectates. There's also an issue with every radio device in the map playing random Fortnite music, even if it's set to not play anything at all at any given time. So just turn your music down until that bug is fixed, because right now random music will just play in the map if you have your music turned up. And despite all the testing I did on this map, I am sure that it's still chocked full of bugs. So if you run into any issues that I didn't already mention, be sure to comment it down below, because I'm going to be doing maintenance on this map for like the next week to try to make it as perfect and as flawless as possible. And last but not least, there is a flash warning on the menu screen if you turn far enough left. So if you are sensitive to flashing lights, just proceed with caution, because there are a couple spots on the map where there are a lot of flashing lights. But with all that out of the way, and without any further ado, let's take a look at how to beat every night on Mannequin Warehouse 2 Home Invasion. Upon loading into the map, you will be greeted with the menu screen that has Distortion and Split on it, and it says the words Mannequin Warehouse 2 Home Invasion, where it has New Game, Continue, and How to Play. Every piece of information you would need to beat all 6 knights in this map can be found in the How to Play section of the menu. Whether you want to know where a mannequin starts, how a mannequin moves, how to defend a mannequin, how to hide from distortion, how to use the camera menu, all of it can be found in the How to Play section. Now, there are a few specific timings and technicalities that I'll be going over in this video that will 100% help you in trying to beat the game, but other than that, everything you would need to know to beat all 6 knights is in the How to Play menu. Anyway, after you're done reading on how to play the map, when you first load into it, you will have New Game, and Continue will say Night 1, so it doesn't matter which one you hit, either one will take you to the Night 1 loading screen. My menu looks a little bit different because I had already beaten the game at the time of recording this video, so I had unlocked Custom Night, but if you hit New Game, you'll get the Night 1 loading screen, and you get this message from your dad. Hey Julie, hope you're hanging in there. My plane just landed, so I figured I'd leave this for you real quick. I've been super busy all day. I know this is a bit of a rough patch for me, but I had to take what I could get. The sitter I got in touch with is super nice. Can't wait for you to meet her. Anyway, I left you an iPad that's hooked up to all the cameras around the house. It should have enough charge for the week. If you need anything, Julie, you can always call me. The sitter should be there shortly. Have a good night. I love you. And that is the message from your dad on Night 1. Now, something that is not explicitly stated in the How to Play section is that for each loading screen for every night, so Night 1, 2, 3, etc., you get a preview of what mannequins are actually going to be active that night. So you can see here on Night 1, it's just Split in the foreground, and then you can see Trauma in the background there as well. And like I just said, this is the case for every night that follows Night 1. Now, if you read how to actually play the game, Nights 1 and 2 are brain dead easy, and I'll explain why. Before I explain why it's so easy though, I want to get into a bit of the camera menu stuff, because if you don't know how Fortnite Creative works, it can be a bit confusing. Once you appear in the bedroom, if at any point, as long as you're not hiding, you hit your shoot button with the remote control device in your hand, it will pull up the iPad or the camera menu, but it actually is a literal iPad. If you look to the left, you can see the home button of it. From the iPad screen, you get access to all 10 cameras scattered around the house, all of which play a certain role in the mannequin's movement. Not all of them on Night 1, of course, but all of them at some point play a role in how the mannequins move. When you click on any given camera, to get back to the iPad iPad screen, all you have to do is hit your interact button again. The buttons that take you back to the iPad screen are placed in a way so that you don't actually have to move the player's camera at all to hit the button, you just have to press your interact button. And if at any point you want to put the iPad screen down, whether you are looking directly at it or looking through one of the cameras, if you press your aim in button, it will put the screen down, allowing you to move freely throughout your room. That is everything you need to know about the iPad screen / camera menu. Now let's talk about Split and Trauma's starting positions, their movement patterns, and how to defend them. Trauma's starting position is the basement, and he has a consistent movement path and consistent movement time intervals, meaning he will always take the exact same path to try to get to your room, and it will always take him the same amount of time between his movements. Trauma actually takes the longest path out of all the mannequins to get to your bedroom, with 3 positions in the basement, 2 in the kitchen, 2 in the main hall, and 1 in the right hall, totaling in 8 movements before he can even attempt to get you. And because he has a consistent path, no matter how active he is, he will always move throughout the basement first, then throughout the kitchen, then throughout the main hall, and then finally sit at your right hall, of course taking him an equal amount of time to move between those positions. Now for this next part to make any sense, I want to talk about what I call the mannequin's movement timers, which are basically the amount of time it takes the mannequins to move between intervals if otherwise defended. Every mannequin, depending on the active level of said mannequin, has a movement timer. For example, on night 1, Trauma's movement timer is set to 22 seconds. What this means is on night 1, if you don't look at him, it takes him 22 seconds to move between his positions. So from his starting spot, it takes him 22 seconds to go to his second spot, then 22 seconds to go to his third spot, so on and so forth. Now, if at any point in the process of that 22-second movement timer, you check the camera that he occupies. So, for example, him starting in the basement, what you're doing is actively stopping and resetting that movement timer. Of course, while you're looking at him through the camera, that movement timer is completely stopped. But as soon as you stop looking at him, as soon as you click off of the camera that he occupies, the movement timer that you just reset starts again. If, of course, I go 22 seconds without looking at Trauma, what that movement timer does is it hits 0 and he moves to his next position and a new movement timer restarts. And because we know he moves in consistent intervals, on night 1 that will stay at 22 seconds, he'll just be in his next position. In other words, as long as you are checking the camera that Trauma occupies, you are resetting and stopping his movement timer. As long as you are looking at him, that movement timer is stopped, and as soon as you stop looking at him, it starts again. And of course, depending on the night, the movement timer will be less and less time. For example, like I already said, on night 1, his movement timer is 22 seconds, so as long as you're looking at him every 21 seconds, you'll be okay and he'll never move. But on night 6, it's a 13-second movement timer, so you have to look at him at least every 12 seconds to stop him from moving, or else he will move. Now, the way Trauma operates is actually unique from all the other mannequins. If he somehow manages to work his way all the way through the basement, through the kitchen, through the main hall, and he gets to your right hall, he gets a different movement timer that is on 15 seconds no matter what his active level is, and he stays there for the rest of the night. On your iPad screen, there's actually a doorbell in the bottom right hand corner that can be used to distract Trauma once he's at your right hall. So if he gets there, if you click the doorbell, he will actually be distracted for 30 seconds and he won't be in the camera anymore. You have to be pretty sparing with the doorbell distractions though, because you can only ring the doorbell every minute, and after 30 seconds he does come back and sits in your right hall again, waiting for you to mess up. Like I said earlier, once he gets to your right hall, he now has a 15-second movement timer that is not dependent on his active level, and if you fail to look at him before that timer hits 0, he disables the right hall cam, and after 10 seconds, he gets you. There's nothing you can do to stop him from getting you. Not only do you have to actively keep looking at him at least every 14 seconds to stop and reset that movement timer, but if you are going to hide or pull up the iPad screen, you have to make sure that your right door is closed. Since he is now so close to your room, being just down the hall, he's looking for any moment that you might be caught off guard, or in other words, he's looking for you to check the iPad or to hide, because that will give him an opportunity to get into your room and he'll get you. So if you're gonna check the iPad or hide, you have to make sure your door is closed. As long as he's not in your right hall, you can check the iPad or hide with your door open, but once he gets there, you have to either look at him to prevent him from getting into your room, or you have to make sure your door is closed when you are checking or hiding from him. And if you do all of that, then you will successfully defend Trauma. I know it's a lot of information to remember, and like I said in the beginning of the video, all of it can be found in the How to Play section under Mannequins, but now I'm going to be moving on to Split. Split's starting position is in the bedroom, and after his first move, he has consistent movement time intervals and a random movement path. To be more specific, Split starts in the closet of the parent's bedroom, so once he opens the closet, which will always be his first move, he can move to one of 5 spots, which includes staying in the bedroom, going to the living room, the bathroom, your left hall, or your left door. The reason I listed them the way I did is because this is a random decision. As soon as he opens that closet, he could go straight to your left door, or he could go to the bathroom, or to the left hall, or to the living room. It is completely random what he is going to do once he opens the closet, and it will be for the rest of the night. One of the unique things about Split is while he's moving, all the locations he could go to, the cameras associated with those locations will go static. So once he moves, the bedroom, the bathroom, the left hall, the living room, they'll all go static. And then as soon as he's decided where he wants to go, the cameras will then fix themselves. If Split decides to go to the left hall, the bathroom, or stays in the bedroom, he works exactly like Trauma does. You can look at him to stop and reset his movement timer, and then as soon as you stop looking at him, it goes again. If Split decides to go to the living room, there's no way to actually stop and reset his movement timer because that camera is just static, but you can actually know he's in there by clicking on it, and you will hear him walking around. It's kind of like the soft sound of footsteps on carpet, but yeah, if he goes in there, you'll hear the footsteps of him walking around. If and when Split decides to go to your left door, if you check the left hall cam, it will actually be static. So if you're just flipping through the cameras and you see that that left hall is just static, then you should close your iPad screen and actually go defend him. Defending Split is super easy. Once he makes it to your left door, all you have to do is open it, stare at him for 4 seconds, and then once your door closes and the hallway blackens, you are free to move on. Just make sure that you don't lose eye contact or like check a camera or try to hide while you're defending him, because that will result in him getting you. It should also be noted that there is a very small chance once you defend him when he's at your door, he will just return back to your door. The odds are something like 1 in 125, but there is a slight chance, so it could happen to you. If that does happen, again, just stare at him for 4 seconds and then you'll be fine. Also, just like Trauma, if he is in your left hall, make sure you're not trying to hide or look at your iPad screen with the left door open, or he will look for an opportunity to get into your room and then get you that way. And last but not least, about Split, his movement timer on night 1 is 25 seconds, so as long as you're looking at him at least every 24 seconds, you should be okay with defending him. And if he makes it to your door, that movement timer is 15 seconds. So if you fail to look at him within 15 seconds of him being at your door, he will then get you. And with all of that information, I hope you're starting to develop an understanding of why night 1 is so brain dead easy, because if you've been watching the background gameplay, all I'm doing is clicking on the bedroom cam, staying there for about 10 seconds, and then clicking on the basement cam, staying there for about 10 seconds. While it may be difficult to see both Split and Trauma in their starting positions for their respective rooms, if you look really close, you can see them. Like if you look in that room back there, you can only see Trauma's arm, but it still counts as looking at him. So what you're doing by checking these cameras is stopping and resetting their movement timers. Since on night 1, their movement timers take forever to hit 0, all you have to do is look at one room for 15 seconds, so while you're staring at them, it's not going, and then once you leave that room, look at the other room for 15 seconds, so it's not going. And if you just keep doing that on night 1, going back and forth, eventually you'll hit 6 a.m. with no problem. So yeah, night 1 is really as simple as that. Just click back and forth between the basement and the bedroom cam as many times as you want, as long as it is within a reasonable time span, and you should hit 6 a.m. with no problem. Upon the completion of night 1, you will be brought back to the main menu screen, where under continue, it will say night 2. When you click continue, you are then greeted with a new message from your dad that reads, "The reception at the border here is awful, but I somehow managed to get a hold of the sitter, and I can't believe she didn't show up. I'm not sure if you tried to call me at all last night because I didn't have service, but I am so sorry, Julie, and I hope you're okay." I get notifications on my phone whenever you check the cameras with the iPad I gave you, so I'm glad to see you figured it out and checked them often. I promise you won't be left alone tonight. And again, I'm sorry it even happened at all. I love you, Julie. Talk to you tomorrow. That is the message that our dad left for us on night 2, and if we look to our right, we will see 2 new mannequins that are now active for night 2. That is Thalia and Melbo. Now, the way you beat night 2 is the exact same way you beat night 1. All you have to do is look back and forth between the basement cam and the bedroom cam, of course with the addition of Thalia and Melbo being active, and then Split and Trauma are just a little bit more active. And when I say a little bit more active, I mean just a little bit more active. I believe Trauma's movement timer was changed from 22 seconds to 20, and Split's movement timer was changed from 25 seconds to 22 seconds. So they are only slightly faster than they were on night 1. We can forget about those guys for now because we have to talk about the 2 children mannequins, Thalia and Melbo, the only mannequins that actually don't try to attack you. They will never jump scare you, they're just there to be annoying. Thalia and Melbo do 2 things. 1, they disable any camera that you check too many times, and 2, they will randomly open your doors every time you put your iPad screen down, or in other words, press your aim in button. On night 2, when they are first actually active, you have to look at a camera 15 times for them to be ready to disable it. So once I look at the basement camera 15 times, on the 16th time I try to look at it, they will appear in the camera and disable it for 30 seconds. And of course, depending on the night/active level, it will take less and less checks of each particular camera for them to show up and disable it. It's important to know that Thalia and Melbo will actually never show up in the living room cam because that camera is already disabled, and they also won't ever show up in the front door cam because they don't leave the house. So you can check the front door cam as many times as you want on whatever night you want, and they will never show up and disable it. But every other camera, they will. And like I said before, every time you put your iPad screen down to walk around freely in your room, they have a random chance to open either one of your doors, and depending on the active level, this chance will either be increased or decreased, of course with the higher active level making it a higher chance they will open your doors. And that is everything you need to know about Thalia and Melbo. Just know if you check a camera 1 too many times, they will show up in it and disable it for 30 seconds. It will be re-enabled after 30 seconds, but just try to avoid checking one camera 1 too many times, and be careful putting your iPad screen down because they will randomly open your doors. Like I said earlier, beating night 2 is the exact same as night 1, just go back and forth between the bedroom and basement cam, but I actually let Trauma move here because I want you to hear what sound he makes every time he moves. I guess that is one thing I forgot to mention about Trauma, is he has a sound associated with every single one of his movements. You can see him now standing just outside of that room he started in, but when Trauma moves, that church bell will play every single time. He's the only mannequin that has a sound associated with all of his movements. I lied, I guess Thalia and Melbo do laugh every time they open one of your doors, and they also laugh every time they show up in a camera to disable it. But anyway, with all that information, you should be able to beat night 2, no problem. It's not difficult at all, and I guess I'll see you guys at night 3. After you beat night 2, the same thing will happen. You'll be back at the main menu where continue will say night 3 under it, and we now get a new message from our dad that reads, "I'm still not getting any messages from you, so I assume everything went well last night. The sitter said she left about an hour after you were asleep. Things are starting to tighten up here at the border. Now that I've got a couple of days of training, my job is being taken more seriously. They actually took my phone for the entire 8-hour shift yesterday, so now I really can't leave you any messages until the day's over. Anyway, I should be home in 4 days, and the sitter should be back tonight. Love you, Julie. Talk to you tomorrow." And with that message, we are introduced to all of the mannequins who are going to be active on night 3. We can see Trauma in the background there. We have Split, Thalia, Melbo, and Distortion is now going to be joining us. Distortion is an interesting mannequin because he is the only mannequin whose movement can't be stopped by you looking at him. He starts in the garage, and even if you are looking at him, he is going to move. Distortion starts in the far corner of the garage, and what he will do is move closer and closer to the door that leads into the house, and eventually will leave the garage, running to your room in an effort to catch you off guard. His movement pattern consists of random movement time intervals, but a consistent movement path, that being 5 different positions in the garage, starting in the very corner, moving to standing behind the car, crawling behind the car, in between the car and the door to the house, and then opening the door to the house. The way the time intervals work for Distortion is he has 3 choices he can make every time he wants to move, which I call his slow option, his fast option, or his fastest option. On night 1, every movement can either take 30 seconds, 27 seconds, or 25 seconds. So after every movement, it will decide, is his next move going to be in 30 seconds, 27 seconds, or 25 seconds, and it does that for the entire night until he leaves the garage, which he then takes 10 seconds to get to your room. If you are watching Distortion via the garage cam and it is time for him to move, he will turn that camera into static, and then once he is done moving, he will then fix it. If he is on his final move before leaving, which is him opening the garage door, his next move is going to be running to your room. If you check the garage cam and the door is swung wide open, that means he is already on his way to your room, which only takes him 10 seconds from the moment he leaves. So if you're checking the cam and you see that that door is open, you're going to want to put your iPad screen down and hide in the closet before he gets there. 9 seconds into the 10-second process of reaching your room, you will hear his footsteps running down the left hallway, and if you fail to hide in the closet, then he will get you. But if you hide before the 9 seconds, once you hide in the closet, you will hear his footsteps anyway, so that's a good indication that you hid on time. So yeah, when you hide on time, you'll hear him running down the hallway for about 2 seconds. Your room will blacken. He will then do a searching animation that lasts for about 3 seconds, and then once he disappears, you can emote to stop hiding, and that means you have successfully defended Distortion. Now, I'm aware all of that I just said can be a bit confusing, so I want to show you what I'm talking about. If you look, Distortion is actually in his last position before he leaves the garage to run to my room. So as soon as that camera goes static, I know for a fact that he is on his way and I have to hide. As you just saw, as soon as the camera went static when he was in his last position, I knew he was going to be running to my room, so I hid, I heard the footsteps, he looked for me, he couldn't find me, and then I emoted to stop hiding because he disappeared, and he returned back to the garage. Once he goes back to the garage from your room, he actually has a random chance to either be in his starting position, in his second position, or his third position, so that's just up to random chance, and I guess if he's in his third position already, you're just unlucky. But that is all there is to defending Distortion. Now, because successfully defending Distortion does take some time, it gives the other mannequins a chance to move because you can't look at them through the cams to stop them from moving if you're hiding from Distortion. So you have to find a healthy balance of checking the cameras and hiding from him when you need to. Like I said earlier, when you hide and you hear those footsteps charging down the hallway, that means that he was on his way. If at any point you hide in the closet and you don't hear those footsteps immediately, that means he hasn't left the garage yet and you can stop hiding. You also have to make sure not to check the garage camera too many times because Thalia and Melbo will disable it, and then you'll really have no idea where he is in his process and you won't actually know when to hide. But yeah, what I do on nights 3, 4, and 5, I don't even check the garage camera until after 1 a.m. because I know for a fact he moves too slow to even get to my room before 1 a.m. So save yourself the checking of that camera because you know he's too slow to get there before 1 a.m. Now that you know how to defend Trauma properly, you should be able to beat Night 3 with no problem. Trauma and Split and Thalia and Melbo are all a little bit more active. You just have to make sure you are checking the cameras that Split and Trauma occupy every so often, and you should beat Night 3 with little to no issues, maybe just a little bit. Here you can see I hid in the closet a little bit early because the footsteps didn't start right away, but I was hidden in the closet once he left the garage, and then I could hear the running, so I knew that I hid successfully, and then as soon as I leave, I went back to checking the cameras that both Split and Trauma occupy, and just like that, I had Night 3 beat. Oh, and you can see Thalia and Melbo disabled that camera right there. With all those defense strategies, 6 minutes goes by in no time, and we then get to continue on to Night 4, where we get a new message from our dad that reads, "Julie, when they took my phone yesterday, they never gave it back. I don't think this is what they said it was. Guards keep looking at me and I don't know, I thought this was just a normal border security job, but I'm less and less sure every day. I had to sneak into where they keep my phone just to leave you this message. I have to go now. They'll find me in here if I take too long. I'm gonna try and leave tomorrow. I'm sure nothing bad will happen. I'll see you soon, Julie. I love you." And right next to that slightly alarming message left by our dad to us on Night 4, we get to see the entire cast of Mannequin Warehouse 2 all standing next to each other, including Trauma, Split, Distortion, Thalia, Melbo, and now Handy. Once night 4 rolls around, every mannequin in the cast is now active. Distortion, Trauma, Thalia, Melbo, and Split, of course, being a little bit more active than they were on the previous nights, and now we have to deal with Handy. Handy's starting position is on the front lawn of the house. It is not actually visible from the front door camera until she moves to her first position, but anyway, she starts on the front lawn and she has a consistent movement path and consistent movement time intervals. What Handy does is she works her way closer and closer to your front door in an effort to make it into your house. Once Handy comes into frame, she has 4 different positions she has to go through to actually get in your front door. 2 of them being on the pathway, 1 of them being slightly on the steps, and 1 of them being all the way up the steps reaching for the door handle. Defending Handy is actually super simple because at any point in her process toward your front door, for any position she's in, if you just stare at her for 4 seconds, it will reset her to her starting position on the front lawn and take her completely out of frame. Whether she's in her first position and is barely visible from the front door cam, or she is about to open your door and has climbed up all of the steps, as long as you look at her for 4 seconds, she will be reset entirely back to the front lawn. Handy does actually have a sound associated with her moving from her starting position to her first position, and it sounds like this. During the night, when you hear that sound, that is the indication that Handy can now be seen from the front door camera. It is the sound she makes when she moves from starting on the front lawn to her first position. She doesn't have any sounds associated with moving toward the front door, but if you defend her, you'll know she's back when you hear that high-pitched ringing. But anyway, what you don't want to have happen is let her get into your house. Like the other mannequins, Handy has movement timers associated with whatever active level she is on. So by looking at her, you are actively stopping and resetting those movement timers, and when you're not looking at her, those movement timers are rolling, allowing her to move if they ever hit 0. On night 4, the first night she is active, her movement timer to actually come into frame from her starting position is 30 seconds, and then her movement timers for moving closer and closer to the front door are 20 seconds. If Handy somehow works her way through all 4 positions heading toward your front door and gets into your house, she disables your ability to check cameras, disables your ability to hide, it disables your ability to open doors, and she breaks basically all of the electricity, forcing your room to go dark and have flashing lights. Once she disables all that and your room is now dark with the flashing lights, she has a 1 in 5 chance every 4 seconds to make it completely dark and cut out all the lights so it is pitch black, and then from there she has a 1 in 4 chance every 4 seconds to get you and ultimately make you lose. In other words, once she makes it into your house, it is completely random the amount of time it will take her to find you and get you. It could be 8 seconds, it could be a minute and a half. It really is all up to random chance. But of course for you, that's not going to be a problem because you're going to stare at her for 4 seconds, resetting her position, making sure she doesn't even have the chance to get close to your front door. As you can see right here, I checked the front door cam. Handy is in her second position, so I just stared at her for 4 seconds until that camera goes static. Once it goes static, I know I've defended her successfully. There's no reason to wait to be put back in the empty version of the front door because it's literally a waste of time. As soon as it goes static, you'll know you've defended her and you can click off and go do other stuff. So yeah, when you break it down, night 4 is really just a healthy balance of checking the cameras that both Split and Trauma occupy to stop them from moving, checking the garage cam every so often to make sure you know when you have to hide from Distortion, and then checking the front door cam to stare at Handy for 4 seconds to make sure she doesn't get into your house. And if you do all that, then you'll beat night 4 no problem. Now, night 5 is just a harder night 4, and night 6 is just a harder night 5. So I'm not going to show you me actually beating them, but I will show you the messages associated with them because I think they're pretty cool. After beating night 4, once you hit continue, you will be greeted with the night 5 loading screen that has a message from Anonymous this time that reads, "Hello, Julie. We regret to inform you that your father has done something very bad and won't be going home for a long time. We've sent someone from our team to your house who will be there very shortly. They'll watch over you while he's away. We can't tell you any of the specifics right now, but we'll continue to use your father's phone to keep in touch. Sorry this had to happen to you, Julie. And directly next to that message is probably what is one of the coolest shots in the entire map. That is Trauma standing directly behind one of the security guards from Do You Blame Yourself. When I do my Easter eggs video, I'll explain what significance that has in more detail, but for now it's just a super cool shot. Once you beat Night 5, under Continue, it will still say Night 5, but if you click on Continue, it brings you to a Night 6 loading screen with a message from our main character from Do You Blame Yourself, Omni, that reads, "You've come so far. I'm impressed, to say the least. Can I ask, though, what do you gain from doing all this? Your father won't be back for who knows how long, and, well, these mannequins aren't backing off either. It seems as if you're just... never mind. Listen, if I were you, I wouldn't continue to do this to yourself. There's no point, Julie. When you decide to stop, you know where to find me." Again, when I do my Easter eggs video, I'll explain more of the significance this has and how it ties into the Do You Blame Yourself story, but for now, I'll just show you the message, and then I'll explain really quickly why I'm not going to show you me beating Nights 5 and 6. Once you beat Night 5, once you come back to the main menu, under How to Play, you will see the words Custom Night. First things first, once you beat Night 5, Custom Night is unlocked forever. Even if you hit New Game and it says Night 1 under Continue, Custom Night will always load back up whenever you load into the map. Second, if you are unfamiliar with the FNAF games, then Custom Night probably looks pretty foreign to you, but if you're familiar with them, you will recognize it right away, and by clicking on this, you are actually brought to a whole extensive menu where you have complete control over how active you want each mannequin to be for your Custom Night. The numbers below each mannequin represent how active you want each of them to be, of course, and what's nice about this Custom Night is you can have one mannequin be active, you can have two mannequins be active, you can have all of them active, or you can have none of them be active, depending on what you've selected. When you click Continue, that will be the case for that night. It kind of sucks because once you make a selection, you can't actually change it without exiting to the main menu, but as you can see, whatever active level I choose, it will pop up on the mannequin's chest, and then as soon as I hit Continue, which is actually to the left of Handy, whatever selections I made will be relevant for that Custom Night. Like I said earlier, if you want to just hit Continue and have none of them selected, then you can just play sort of a dead night, and if you want to put them all on 20 and die almost instantly, then you can do that too. Of course, Omni is also in this room and he explains everything that I'm explaining about Custom Night and how it all works, so if you're not understanding any of this, just read all of that. And of course, just like the first map, there is a 2020 mode Wall of Fame in this map for anyone who can send me video evidence of them putting all of the mannequins on their active level 20 and then proceeding to beat the night. You have to send video evidence via YouTube or Twitter or whatever you can, but if you do that, you will get your name on the 2020 mode Wall of Fame. Now, believe it or not, Custom Night is actually the reason I'm not showing myself beat Night 5 or Night 6, because unlike the first map where I failed miserably at trying to beat 2020 mode, I actually beat it on this map, and it only took like 15 tries. Granted, I'm not saying 2020 mode was easy to beat, there's still a fair amount of luck that was involved, but because I had to make the mannequins slower to compensate for the fact that some of the rooms de-rendered, and even though there is more mannequins than in the first map, I do think this 2020 mode is a lot easier than the first map. So yeah, that's why I'm not showing myself beating Night 5 or Night 6, because it's a lot more boring to watch than it would be 2020 mode, and I'll probably end up uploading that video either tomorrow or the day after. But anyway, this video is already way too long, and I think I've covered every mannequin in as much detail as I possibly could, so that is the full walkthrough for Mannequin Warehouse 2 Home Invasion. First off, I just want to say thank you all for the overwhelming amount of support you guys have given this map over the past week, despite all of the bugs that are still in it. Sometimes the menu has no buttons, and there's issues with loading progress when there's more than one person in the map, and sometimes the jump scares don't play, and sometimes you can't see the billboards. There are so many bugs that I just don't know how to fix yet. But even despite all that, like I said, you guys have been crazy supportive of this map, and I really do appreciate it. This is one of my most ambitious projects, and hopefully if you were having trouble beating any of the nights or understanding how any of the mannequins worked, this video helped you out, because I understand that it is a very complicated map and it's easy to get lost trying to figure out what to do. But yeah, that is everything I have for you guys today. I really do hope this video helped you out. Happy New Year, and yeah, this has been Syntax. Later.